who already have low income, particularly in like developing areas, developing countries, they do suffer, from accessibility issues to education infrastructure and healthcare, and eventually have low productivity. But conversely, they also have difficulties in getting savings, the expenditure is higher, and oftentimes they are already at risk of being pushed from poverty to extreme poverty just because of healthcare reasons. In fact, almost 925 million, almost a billion people face, great financial ruin because of the rising healthcare costs or because of certain healthcare emergencies. So there are five specific health challenges that I think many populations face today. The first is that healthcare is actually increasingly expensive and less affordable because inflation globally is definitely rising in terms of healthcare expenditure, and especially in Asia. And we face a silver tsunami where aging is eventually going to catch up to us. Where age growth, while it is already 3.4% in Asia in 2019, many countries actually are starting to have lower and lower birth rates over time. And the healthcare expenditures, when there are more chronic diseases and they're more elderly, is going to be a problem in the future. Second, healthcare costs actually extend beyond the treatments. And then, like in Mrs. Islam's case, there are a lot of indirect costs where there's things like, traveling, lost wages, and there are also a high proportion of rural populations where, the ability to earn isn't going to, increase as fast as these healthcare costs. And the indirect costs are often pretty high as well. Third, one of the biggest problems with healthcare costs is that it's often quite unpredictable. This can be partially contributed because it's often difficult to get screening on very large rural populations or larger populations. And of course, there's often a mentality that, you only go to the doctors only to seek a cure or only when you're symptomatic. But with the rise of chronic diseases, a mentality of screening actually is more appropriate. And certainly it's very difficult for people to predict, the cost and the volume of care. Just like how as doctors, we often say, what's your 10-year risk of a cardiovascular event? We can't actually predict the day of the stroke. And as a result, they often get hit by an emergency expenditure. Fourth, one of the critical things that affect a lot of healthcare expenditures is that there are huge out-of-pocket costs, particularly in Asia. In Bangladesh, it was actually closer to 70%. And the coverage for certain reimbursement systems are actually not complete. Like, for example, some lung cancer drugs in China are actually not fully covered as of 2018, 2019 time. And this is in red because I think that the way that healthcare financing is going on now is that a lot of the healthcare costs are actually linked to the utility of these systems. Like if we want to pay for an MRI machine, it's related to the cost rather than the outcome. And because there is a disconnect, it results in more fee for service rather than being based on any data that we pay $700 for an MRI because it can prevent extra costs in the future. One biggest problem is that there is actually a lack of data to evaluate this care, and certainly using healthcare data alone would struggle even more, as many countries do not have a robust electronic medical record system yet. So can fintech really lead to better health? And is there really, some synergy that can be obtained? And there are three main things that I think fintech can really help. And of course, the most obvious one is that there are digital financial solutions. So digital savings and lendings certainly allow people to, buffer these emergencies along with insurtech and crowdfunding. Many of these people finally have a phone to contribute into the global economy, and suddenly they are able to have access to not only things like remittance, like how Mrs. Islam was getting remittance from her husband through um, digital systems, but they can even afford like micro insurance that they can then pay by digital means rather than having to fill out a paper form for illiterate workers and then having to pay by physical cash. Two, healthcare delivery channels are evolving, and we are experiencing a great rise in online medical services, everything from telehealth to digital health and even e-prescribing, where for patients like Mrs. Islam, can she actually get new supplementation for her baby rather than going to the hospital to get it and getting a limited quantity? Can it be delivered to a post office near herself? And even then, they can even predict, how many pregnant women are in the area. Therefore, they can deliver in bulk and lower the cost of medications. Um, so, as many of these services go online, some element of a monetary transaction is going to be involved, and that's where a lot of fintech can come in to lower the overall costs and also increase the accessibility to these delivery channels. But third, I think there are also great digital enablers. And fintech certainly is at the forefront, right? Digital IDs, mobile wallets, and currencies are way ahead of the curve compared to health tech. And imagine if the same techniques used to prevent online fraud can be used instead to prevent prescription fraud or even fake medications. To know that the medications are not expired and come from a legitimate source, so that a patient like Mr. Muhammad can get medication that is actually appropriate for his diabetes. So, and also, fintech platforms do have great databases, and I'm a strong believer that we can use non-healthcare data and population level data to kind of predict the healthcare outcomes in the region. And that's where I think fintech in health can lead to great progress. So in summary, I hope that I've managed to convince everyone a bit that healthcare financing should be patient-centered. Health is more than healthcare and requires a lot of stakeholders to coordinate and have synergy. And with regards specifically to fintech, better data, improving accessibility and affordability can improve healthcare outcomes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to our masterclass, Bridging the Tech Gap. My name is Genevieve Goh. I'm the Principal Technical Consultant of the Singapore FinTech Academy. I've got a wealth of experience managing multiple organizations that would like to harness data fusion and data intelligence products and solutions to provide them with a business leverage. Today's masterclass will be focusing on how we are emerging from lockdown living and how we have managed to motivate ourselves by pivoting and managing such uncertain times by innovating and yielding financial returns through artificial intelligence and machine learning. We'll be talking about how and why people's health and wellness and experience should be the center of all our decisions. And our masterclass will be focusing on one, the new landscape of adoption of AI and machine learning and how it has evolved. Two, how do we harness people's health, wellness, and experience for data-driven decisions, and what are the benefits of doing so? With a new norm and COVID affecting, almost the whole world, there is a great shift in work arrangement. There is a bigger shift in customer engagement and purchasing capabilities. If you look at the Harvard Business Review, AI adoption has skyrocketed for over the last 18 months. I think the crisis accelerated a lot of the adoption of analytics and AI. Reason being that AI has now become a mainstream. It's no longer a good to have, but it is a tool that can give every business its leverage. It can give every business its capability of harnessing the new consumer behavior. And with that, the report shows that with poll companies participating in their research, 55% of them have accelerated their strategy in 2020, and 67% are expected to further accelerate their AI strategy in 2021. So what is artificial intelligence and machine learning? So machine learning is the study of computer algorithms that improve automatically through experience, and most importantly, leverage the use of data. As you can see, machine learning is a part of artificial intelligence, where the machine actually leverages on sample data, it trains itself with data, and is not explicitly programmed to do so, or it could be explicitly programmed to do so as well. Machine learning algorithms can be seen in multiple wide variety of application. This could be applicable in medicine, in computer science, in speech recognition, in healthcare, in many industries. And what it's trying to do is to develop unconventional algorithms to perform needed tasks, and conventional algorithms to perform the same needed tasks as well. So a subset of machine learning is actually closely related to computational statistics. And this focus on making predictions using computers. You use data and its capability of compute capability to do data mining. It kind of delivers different methods of optimization processes. What is machine learning? If you look at the illustrations on the slide, the study of machine learning is really in demystifying data into meaningful stories. If you look at the set of illustrations, it shows you that data could be cluttered, it could be a huge volume, and it could be in a massive pile like you see in the blocks of Lego on the picture itself. In the study and methods of machine learning, you go through the steps of sorting it, making sure that the right type of data are put in the right buckets. You arrange it such that it gives you a meaningful understanding of a time series of what has happened during that period, or who has contributed to what type of data as part of your analysis. You then present it visually in a way that could explain to your users what the data is trending and what's the data leading in explaining what's happening. And at the end of the day is to leverage data to explain a story, thinking or describing what has happened, or in doing a forward prediction to solve a business problem. There are common two flavors of adoption. One is in descriptive analytics, where you use to gather and analyze the current state of things, or what has happened before in a historical sense. The questions that you will be able to answer would be, what has happened, what happened? And usually you leverage on that to find out from the set of data that you have to allow you to do further analysis of what you could be doing in future. And this leads us to the second flavor of adoption, which is predictive analytics. You use it to forecast future outcomes, and you use it to answer questions like, what is likely to happen? So let's look at the new norm. With COVID and how we are working from home, staying at home, and unable to meet with friends, relatives in your country or overseas, we've now resorted to platforms like social media platforms to stay connected, to stay sane, to stay aware of what's happening around the world. While data has exploded and the way we handle data has to be carefully managed, one topic that has evolved in this recent times due to the explosion of AI strategies in companies is in the idea of responsible AI. While AI and human and machine learning can assist the human in the decision making in this round center circle in this entire ecosystem, we do have to consider how we are doing it in a responsible manner, how we are accountable to the decisions that the machine is making, how we are ensuring that the data that we are using leading to the decision is representing fairness and equity in many forms, how we ensure that the data that we are harnessing for insights have been obtained in the most appropriate manner to ensure that there are privacy and governance in place when we are harnessing these data for insights. So let's talk about how we can harness data-driven decisions. Firstly, in healthcare, AI and machine learning has helped in improving many aspects of human life. The first is how we have leveraged machine learning and its capabilities to find vaccines for COVID-19 and in fact, vaccines for many other diseases as well. A use case would be Moderna, chief data scientist, talking about using AI to speed development. They use computers and algorithms to help run sequencing in all of their mRNA testing to ensure that the amount of results need not be time bound due to the number of people that they have to run that. So they program algorithms and processes to automate and digitalize all of that. And that helped them create a vaccine in the shortest time. Let's talk about in wealth and in the financial space. I think in the financial space, data analytics or data-driven decision has been done for many institutions for the longest time. It could be done and used for compliance. It could be used for anti-money laundering capabilities. It could be used for many other forms. But with the recent push in digitalization and adoption of AI, we can see the following trends. The first is in the rising consumer purchasing capabilities have gone a lot digitalized. Gone are the days of transacting using hard dollars and hard cash. And that's where if everything is done in a digitalized form, it could be further analyzed and leveraging analytics to maximize the rewards of how you should be spending the money and where should be the platforms that you should focus on in spending. The capabilities of consumers allowing transparency of prices over several digital e-commerce platforms and allowing them to spend at the location that gives them the most returns as well as rebates and many other options and capabilities. You know, this is the biggest trend in consumer behavior where spend is analyzed and spend is maximized for returns and rewards. The third part is in how financial institutions are now creating dynamic product. This is catering to the individual wallet and appetite, and sometimes even dynamically tied to usage. An example would be car insurance that's tied to smart devices in their cars. And the more you drive, the more you pay, the less you drive, the less you pay. So such smart products and smart dynamic pricing strategies and pricing behavior can only be done with data analytics. And this gives the consumer the perspective that they are getting added value, as this time around, whatever products that they are buying are truly what they need. And the last part in the growth of AI and machine learning in the wealth sector is in the area of robo-advisors. Algo trading has seen a large surge in recent years, and this is due to data explosion, number one. And the next thing is the accessibility of the consumers to the availability of data that used to not be available to them in the old world. So this has led to a lot of smart trading technologies and tools and software tools out there, and therefore powering robo-advisors, providing the extra alpha for consumers, and therefore increasing the adoption of such robo-advisory platforms for consumers. So what I have shared are simple applications in health and wealth that has been available and accelerated due to recent changing climate. And I would like to end off from Alan Turing, where a computer would deserve to be called intelligent if it could deceive a human into believing that it was human. The end goal of any AI or machine learning tool, algorithm, model of strategy is to really assist a human to lead a better life. Thank you everyone for listening to this masterclass.
Great to be here on such an important subject, health and wealth. My name is Sam Ree, and I'm the co-founder and chief investment officer of Indawos, the leading digital wealth app here in Singapore, and also the former CEO and CIO of Morgan Stanley Investment Management in Asia. Indawos's mission is to help everyone invest better so they can live easier today and live better tomorrow. And I think this is really appropriate because in the space of health and wealth, I think that trying to live easier today, every day, and trying to live better tomorrow and preparing for our financial future.
Okay, welcome everybody. Good morning to this session on health and wealth. Well, a lot of people say health is wealth, which is true. All right. So this morning you have heard from Dr. Scott Wong and you have heard from Genevieve Goh. Now, we have got to quickly jump in and let Dr. Scott Wong speak because he has to run to save lives, right? So if you have burning questions for Dr. Scott Wong, he is with us today. And I tell you what is so exciting about his work. Besides being a medical doctor who saves lives, concurrently, he innovates and come up with solutions for healthcare accessibility and data-driven information all on a dashboard. You know, we have this COVID-19 and it's suddenly so rampant. So now we resort to asking people to use the ART and do your own testing. But why do you want to do your own testing only? You want to see a big dashboard and get information real time so that you can quickly do things necessary to put a stop to this time bomb. So to do that, actually, we need somebody who's both in this field at the same time also having the technology. So let's hear from the innovator. He actually has invented something which is used by our Ministry of Health as well as our MINDEF. Over to you, Dr. Scott Wong.
Yeah, thanks, Lillian, for the kind introductions. So, just a quick background. Now I'm a medical doctor, still seeing patients. But like what Prof. Lillian said, we are also in a incredible time where it's also a pandemic, and hopefully we can get to eat out all quite quickly. So critically, when it comes to innovation, it's actually when value is delivered to both patients and people. So when it comes to things like, I know the topics, FinTech in healthcare, where we use finance technology to improve accessibility and affordability issues. On the more recent COVID front, me and my very tiny team, we actually went out to build a mass platform for antigen rapid testing. So if you've received any kit that is being delivered by the MOH, you know, the 6 kits, and then everybody has a piece of paper. The QR code is basically built by me, where we actually do step-by-step instructions. And if there are any changes, rapid changes in terms of if you're positive or negative, we not only tell you what to do, which can change quite rapidly, but we also give you resources like, you know, if you're positive and you're in shock, we can liaise you with like mental health resources. But more importantly, if you submit a photo, we have now about 1.3 million photos. So we've managed to develop the algorithms that can tell if it's a test kit and if it's positive and negative, therefore giving us real-time machine monitoring of the entire country in terms of antigen rapid testing. But what's the critical part about it? And the critical part about it is that in terms of innovation, we live in a very different time. A lot of things are faster, and a lot of the guidelines that we may have seen in the past, software developmental cycles in months and years, they certainly do not apply in times of a pandemic where, like, for example, my software was piloted in 25 minutes and deployed in 6 days. So we had to have we had to build things on the fly, and that's going to be applicable for many of these technologies, particularly you think FinTech, InsurTech. You can't just use, your traditional model where somebody underwrites it, you clear after, 2 years, and you realize, hey, after 5 years, oh, chronic disease landscape has changed, or that, there's a new blood pressure machines that were not accounted for maybe just 2 to 3 years ago. So we are living in a time where we need to at least from my perspective as a doctor, it's good to think, walk a mile in the patient's shoes, think on their feet, really what's the problem of the time, and particularly be able to focus on the execution of solutions and continually adapt, because what FinTech can be in one country, in one province, is going to be different from another province, for example, right? It's going to look extremely different. And so is what the people need, what the people wants to afford. And so even the suppliers, what FinTech can use to buy is going to be different. So therefore, we need to focus on speed and execution and go down and fight the battle on the ground such that we can really deliver some form of value at a large scale. And at least that's my perspective, and just opening up to questions. Yeah.
Any questions? This is your chance to ask. Otherwise, he has got to jump back to his work.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Sorry. Hi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wanted to ask. You said you took 25 minutes to do coding at 6. What exactly did you? What was the solution then?
So the solution is ART Buddy. And what we realized in the height of the pandemic was that instead of going deep, everybody wants to build applications, AI, machine learning. That's one way of innovation. We went the other way. That means we went, how can you have the most simple technology that everybody can use? So we decided to build a progressive web application back in 2020. So, every time you go to Changi Airport and they ask you for a Wi-Fi, that thing is actually not an app, it's actually a website. But if you expand websites, you can actually get the functionality of applications. And to that, we were able to build not only progressive web applications, so pretty powerful websites, but we are able to automate the building of it. Once you automate the building of it, the production time goes down from our original website back in 2020 was used in the COVID times, symptom checking, explaining medications and things like that. It took us 6 weeks to do, but we took the software, we built it into modular parts, and every part is it's tested, it's robust, VAPT all done. Then we build it like Lego blocks, and that's how we just assemble blocks, and we are able to come up with an enterprise level solution in 25 minutes. So when it comes to once you have an enterprise solution that you can assemble in minutes and days, then you are able to compete on execution. So you're no longer saying that, hey, oh, my app doesn't work because I don't have enough programmers or I cannot host it on the cloud. You're going to be like, that's a given. It doesn't work because maybe the instructions are not good enough, or maybe to the Bangladeshi worker who is doing antigen rapid testing in the middle of a zoo or the middle of a lamppost, maybe the internet connection is not good enough. We need to reduce the file size, reduce the juice. So by focusing on the execution and going down to consumer tech and the lowest common denominator, we were able to establish a user base that's now like 1.5 million people over 4 months, right? So then we can start competing on like different business models. Like, if we have 20,000 people looking at the website, can we have health advertising? If we have 250,000 to 300,000 images a day, a month, right? Can we have artificial intelligence to just say, is there 1 line or 2 line on the antigen rapid testing kit? And that's how we are able to compete, and we innovate by focusing on execution rather than just the ideas.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I think maybe we can set up a WhatsApp group so that later on, if you have got further questions, we can help address, because the other expert today at this panel is Genevieve Goh. Genevieve is an excellent, a brilliant data scientist, as well as she works on AI and data analytics. So we can ask her to share with us her perspective. Genevieve, anything on IT in healthcare? Or I see that she's, are you with us, Genevieve? Hello. Hello.
Hi, I have a question for Dr. Scott Wong.
Okay.
Is there anything that the MOH is doing that's closer to, using the data to understand what's happening out there in the pandemic, like the cases and how infection is, or whether the vaccine is working, whether the, things like that, which is closer. Is there something that maybe Dr. Wong can share with us that's related to, patient, closer to the patient set?
No.
So I think even in the public domain, there's already a lot on this interesting topic. And what actually goes on in rough sense, so I don't want to say too many hidden stuff. So in rough sense, a lot of the test kits or a lot of the data, the vaccines are actually not only based on data that's publicly available. So every company that produces a vaccine in the country will give us data, right? But we also have to independently verify a lot of the issues. And that's where I think at the recent healthcare awards, the group that won from NCID, they are part of the team that actually rapidly evaluates a lot of these protocols and a lot of the clinical science and the data. But aside from just the clinical data, which is, you're assuming that medical data can be used to generate insights for a medical problem. Actually, a lot of the data comes from non-medical sources as well. So just give you an example. If MOH did not coordinate the ability for us to get N95 supply, if we did not have an adequate supply of vaccines or an adequate supply of personal protective equipment, we will not be able to fight as effectively. So a lot of these logistical things are also part of the data analytics, like logistical requirements and planning for everything from manpower to PPE supplies to what is our production rate. So all these things are critical for the COVID fight, which is also why we've set up a BioNTech facility manufacturing vaccines to mitigate the supply side issues for the future efforts. So hopefully that gives a brief flavor, and I would just classify into, there is analytics of clinical data, not just analytics, but also validation really. But there's also the non-medical side of the house, which is both done by MOH in collaboration with other ministries as well. So that's in brief.
Thank you, very helpful.
Thank you. Have we got another question? If you are very interested in AI, data analytics, we've got our expert here, Genevieve, who can share with you.
Hi, everyone. While waiting for a question, I think, to demystify a little bit about AI and machine learning, it's really just having the right amount of data and understanding the patterns and insights of the data. So what Dr. Scott Wong was talking about, certain use cases and certain problem statement need not use data in the context that it was found. So for example, in the area of finance or robo-advisors, you would imagine that if you are analyzing whether the growth of pharmaceutical companies would be growing, it will then require data of adoption, supplies, logistics, or even in-country ability to bring an approval of that medication or that vaccine impacts that as well. So the accessibility to data really is key in leveraging it for its insights, and most importantly, to solve that problem statement as well. So happy to discuss, any context of how would you address certain problem statements, or any use cases that you have in your own respective responsibilities.
Oh,
So
hi, Genevieve.
yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sorry, actually, I have a question, right? But it's more of I mean, the government has collected lots of data in COVID, right? So are there any interesting insights that you can share with us that is not so well known right now about what's happening?
Yeah, I guess, the government as our kind of like our nationwide custodian has the ability to collect that much data. There's two flavors of what they would be thinking about as they are harnessing it for insights. One is the volume, data is good, but the volume of data also creates a problem. Like, how do we ensure that the right amount of data is not is in there, and too much data might skew the pattern towards a certain way. So if the collection of the data is for a certain groups and not for the wider audience, you need a bigger team to do the inspection to ensure that when they are sampling the data out for view or insights, that can be better harnessed. The other area that I think the general community are very sensitive about, okay, if you look at the social media forums, it's about personal identifiable data. Yeah, it only gets more flavorful if you can determine like certain demographics, or you can identify what is in there that make that decision. However, as a consumer, you don't want people to be knowing where you've been in the last 10 days. When we first started with Trace Together or the tokens, I think the biggest question is that, is the government checking on me? Like, will they know what I'm doing? So I think the usage of data for analytics purpose in an anonymous way, it's actually one of the key problem statements that the government has to solve. And I know that there are technologies out there to enable that. Things like blockchain, like encryption, making sure that there is a layer of protecting personal identifier data. Back to the topic of responsible AI, making sure that all decisions are transparent and all that. So that's a bigger innovation that the like GovTech or the government team would have to address before it can really broadcast the essence of what the data is telling. So that's my perspective.
Thanks, Genevieve. I think data is always a perennial question. And the worst thing of all is some people are not even aware of this. I think this is super important. And in fact, we had that and we had that innovation coming from Singapore. And it's called Vault Dragon. Yeah, Dragon Vault. All right, it's gone throughout whole of ASEAN, hospitals and all that. And we are welcoming it back to Singapore. So we have talents here in Singapore. Yeah, so Dr. Scott Wong and Genevieve Goh are very thick into this. And if you want to learn more about healthcare and FinTech, do join us for another session on Friday. We got both the face-to-face on site at 79 Robinson Road, but we only have very limited tickets for live event. But we welcome everybody to sign on the Zoom link, because no limit, right? Anything that is online, it's there. No, this is the digital banking one, which the Chief FinTech Officer will be announcing. We want to have the one on health. Next one, Darren. The one on health. This one? Okay, fine. This is the one. Please scan and sign up for 12th of November, 2:45 to 3:45. We hope that you have more insights to healthcare, accessibility, affordability. We do have some time left. So one last question. Somebody, one last question before we bring you to the next speaker. Our next speaker is Sam Ree, founder of Endowus. All right, so yes, one last question for Genevieve or Scott before he has to quickly go and save more lives. All okay? No more questions? Yes, okay. So without further ado, yes, Darren. Yes, let's continue. Please sign up. Let's continue to make sure everybody can join us at the Nexus of FinTech Innovation in Healthcare on this Friday, because that's where you see global innovations of healthcare. And I think we all should be aware of what's going on. And we have lined up an excellent panel who will be sharing with us various aspects of innovations impacting lives. So that's the nexus of FinTech innovation in healthcare. And back to the wealth tech. So for wealth tech, we know that it is already quite a big thing, that there is this robo-advisory, and there is this trend going towards something which all millennials would love, because it is very, very convenient, right? So you've got your whole digital banking experience on the phone. And to do that, we have 2 more sessions. Just now, Darren has shown you, and the 2 sessions are on digital banking and on wealth tech. But before we go on, that's why I say get onto our WhatsApp group. The link is there in the chat. You get on our WhatsApp group, we will show you the links to keep yourselves learning and be updated. Okay, so without further ado, let us now have Sam Ree, the founder of Endowers. All right, so when Sam Ree tells you what Endowers does, you will then get an idea of how it is so easy to have digital banking on your phone. There you go. Thank you.
To tomorrow. And I think this is really appropriate, because in the space of health and wealth, I think that trying to live easier today, every day, and trying to live better tomorrow and preparing for our financial future better is one of the best ways to remain healthy. And it is also important to maintain our wealth as well. We did a recent survey of Singaporeans about how well they're prepared for the future in terms of financial matters. 39% of Singaporeans think they will not have enough for retirement. Almost half, 45%, have not planned for retirement at all. And the number one regret of individuals is not investing more. And the stress of managing wealth is the biggest source of stress. Money matters is the biggest source of stress for most people in our lives. So it's important that we take this seriously, because many studies, academic studies, have shown there is a very high correlation between income or wealth and our general well-being in terms of health. We found that those studies have found that people with greater wealth generally live longer, have lower rates of chronic disease, and better functional status throughout their life. And more studies recently show greater association between greater wealth and many favorable health outcomes. And so it's important that we manage our wealth in a way that is going to improve our health as well. And the bottom line is that life just keeps getting more expensive, even here in Singapore. The Singapore inflation rate is 1.7% officially, but we know that prices have been rising quite rapidly. The core cost of living, like housing and utilities, has been on track with inflation rates generally. But things like healthcare has gone up significantly higher, and food, which is really important to our well-being, and education has risen even faster. So it's really important for us to understand that, not only should we save well, which is putting money aside, but we need to learn to manage wealth better by investing well. So combining saving and investing and doing it well can have a big effect on your money and your life. And you can see the huge difference between what just saving, setting aside money at a 1% deposit, which is also these days really impossible to get, but versus investing in financial markets over the long term, generating compounding returns, which will build our wealth for the future. Now, the 3 pillars of investing success we believe at Endowers are advice, access, and cost. It's really important to have all 3 rather than just one or the other. This is important because it's so important to us that Endowers actually built leveraging technology an all-in-one investment app for all of your money. Indus, obviously, many of you may know, is famous for being the first and only digital advisor for CPF money here in Singapore. We are the best rated robo and the fastest growing. But what's really important to us in this mission is to try to help people to invest better. And one of the ways to do it is to invest all of your money. That's why we went to solve the CPF investing problem, because on this investment app, you can now manage your CPF, your SRS, and your cash savings all in one. And this holistic approach to wealth is really important. We should not be bucketing little pieces of money across different brokers, different platforms, and different asset classes, but managing it holistically across all of your money, across all of your wealth. Now, most Singaporeans, unfortunately, are not investing or not investing right. This is a study by OCBC Wellness Index, and in it, the state of affairs in investing in Singapore showed that like more than 1/3 of investors are actually not even investing in financial assets. They may have fixed deposits and real estate exposure, but they don't have long-term investing portfolios to build wealth for the long term. 1/3 of people are speculating excessively for quick gain. And this is a recent phenomenon that is, I think, being exacerbated by the introduction of meme stocks and stock trading apps that are free. Also, the introduction of cryptocurrencies. Some of these things are legitimate ways of investing and growing your wealth, especially if you do it for the long term. But I think people who want a quick gain and are investing speculatively normally end up failing in their investment strategy. Now, the third piece is investors who are doing it in the right way, but not the returns are not performing to the targets or the expectations they have set. And one of the major reasons is because of cost. The cost of investing is very, very high. And I think that we need to manage our costs really well. We save pennies and we use coupons when we go to supermarkets and we spend our daily spending. But when it comes to investing, which is a big pool of money, we don't do enough. And so the cost of an additional 1% in fees is the difference between an 8% and a 7% net return over 30 years can compound to a 245% difference in returns, a staggering number that will help us. If we can just reduce cost, that is directly impacting and improving our returns and building wealth in a better way for the future. Now, individuals have it tough. I think not only do we not have access to great products or great advice, we're also being charged high cost, but also we are behaviorally making mistakes. We're chasing markets on the way up. We're enamored by stocks that are doubling and tripling. We don't allocate enough to it, or we're punting with cryptocurrencies. So, we looked at the actual returns of investors over the long term, and we realized that most investors actually don't do that well. They actually lag market returns. If you had just invested passively and stress-free, and you focused on your health and your loved ones and better things and more important things to you, then you would actually done much better than the market, than if you had been more active. So it's really important, I think, to have a good strategy for investing. A good way to do it is to have defined goals for investing. Your short-term cash management, your medium-term for your house or your wedding or a car or a holiday, and then your long-term money for retirement. We need to do much better in managing this. And we need to leverage technology and new resources to be able to do this better. And I think one of the most important things we can do to improve our mental wellness and our health in managing our wealth is to focus on what we can control and let go of the things that we cannot control and not stress out about it. So what we cannot control is the economy. We cannot control what's going to happen to the COVID pandemic. We don't know what social distance measures will be in a month or 2 months. We also don't know what stock markets will be doing in the future. We cannot predict the future. Also, short-term movements in individual stocks are volatile, and therefore we don't know, and we cannot control it. But what we can control is what we should focus on. We should focus on our career, our human capital, developing ourselves and learning so that we can build wealth for the future by building our human capital, which later will translate into financial capital as well. We can focus on tried and tested proven methods of investing well to build wealth. Things like asset allocation, which defines most of the returns for institutional investors. Individual investors can learn from these institutional investors like GIC and sovereign wealth funds who do it right. And introducing things like diversification, not putting all your eggs in one basket, and really reducing cost at every layer and finding a better solution. And all these things can help you. And the final thing is your own behavior. We can control our own behavior, not be panicked or, when the markets fall, not to chase after, pipe dreams or, the hottest, latest stock, but to focus on long-term goals that will really help you succeed. And that's what Endawas is here for, is really trying to help grow all of your money. So I hope that you guys will all be able to manage your health, manage your wealth for the benefit of you and your loved ones, in securing your financial future, in meeting the needs of your goals, including the most important, which is your retirement. Thank you for having me.
Thank you everyone for being with us for this session. Feel free to ask us questions. We are available through WhatsApp. We are also available for you on Thursday and Friday. So stay tuned. And to the last part on what Sam Ree has said, all right, let's invest rationally, intelligently, wisely, and more importantly, prudently. There is no such thing as get rich, all right, become a millionaire. Well, yes, some of them have already made quite a lot of money in cryptos and all that. You have heard. Have you heard the stories of people having a meltdown? I have seen all these. So when you invest, make sure you know what you're putting your money into. If you are not clear, go find out, all right? But basically, the whole idea is when we invest, we do it rationally. And why we advocate that we trust companies like Sam Ree's company and more, Endowers, Stashaway, etc., because they use the robots, right? And robots usually don't have the emotional baggage, don't have sentiments and all that, but rather quite a well-written algorithm will see them doing their job. But whatever it is, you have heard of the term caveat emptor, all right, which means buyers beware. So we must be very, very prudent with our hard-earned money. And therefore, we hope you will continue learning, continue finding out on what's going on. What's all these cryptos, NFTs, DeFi, and all the coins? We do have such a course for you at NTU. All right. So again, we can share with you this course is on Zoom as well, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to demystify what's going on in all these cryptos and NFTs and DeFis and now metaverse. All right. We hope you continue learning. Enjoy the rest of the Singapore FinTech Festival. Thank you for being here. See you soon.